Chapter 3 Doldrums. December 15th was upon them before they had time to be wary of their bargain. It dawned clear and fine. The keeper'll sure to come today. The sea's as smooth as anything, Ronnie said as breakfast. It's been fun, but I'll be glad to get home. Yes, thank goodness it's a fine day, Aunt Martha agreed. We'll pack our belongings early, the minute we get the lantern cleaned and our chores done. We must leave everything as neat as a ship's cabin. Like as not, the boat won't want to wait 5 minutes. We'd best be ready. The fine, clear day wore on. Lessons were put aside, and Ronnie and Aunt Martha took turns keeping a lookout toward the mainland through the keeper's glass. But no little boat marred the green surface of the open sea. At supper time, Aunt Martha found Ronnie crouched in the deep window seat of one of the tower's upper windows, the glass still clutched in his tired hands. "It's been a disappointing day, Ronnie, I know," she said gently. "But come now, dear, and help me with the light." He didn't answer, and she went on. "What's one more night? We'll light our lantern, and then we'll have our tea. There's a hot fish chowder simmering on the stove this minute." Ronnie turned a grim little face toward her. "It isn't that it's just one more night," he said, "but he promised, Aunt Marthy. I heard him my own self. Not a day later than the 15th, he said. I heard him say it." "I know he promised, Ronnie, but something may have happened. We can't know. Let's not be too hard on him. Like as not, he'll be here tomorrow. Come now, whatever happens, our lamp must burn, and I need your help. No woman can manage it alone." Ronnie jumped down the steps and plodded warily toward the lamp room without another word. The next day was the same, and the next, the 18th, the 19th, the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd of December came and went, and still no boat from the Twin Islands or the mainland. Nothing but the fringe of flying spray as wave met rock, but the vast expanse of gray-green water. Ronnie said very little. He did his share of the work with a hard, unsmiling face. Wise Martha Morse knew that something deeper than a disappointment was gnawing at him. His sense of justice had been outraged. Byron Flagg hadn't played fair, but wisely, too. She waited for him to speak. It came one night as they were doing up their dishes after tea. Ronnie flung down his towel and burst out. "Aunt Marthy, isn't a broken promise the wickedest thing on earth?" Martha Morse took her hands out of the water and gave the question her full attention. "I don't believe so," she said gravely at last. "It seems to me that I can think of wickeder things. I guess cruelty, hurting anything little or defenseless, is my idea of the worst kind of wickedness. Still, I can remember when I'd have agreed with you," she added honestly. "But you get used to broken promises, Ronnie. Broken promises, along with good intentions, that have gone wrong, just litter the highway all through your life. There's nothing to bother about much unless they're your own. But they're mean, Ronnie. A man who breaks a promise has a weak place in his net. Sometimes he'll get by with it, but sometimes he'll lose the catch of a lifetime. But we've got to remember one thing before we dare to judge Byron Flagg or anyone else. We've got to know why he broke his promise. Maybe he had a good reason." Ronnie showed no interest in Byron Flagg's reason, but he said fiercely as he picked up his towel again, "I'll never break a promise as long as I live." Martha Morse made no comment, but she thought to herself, "If he can live up to that, he'll be in debt to Byron Flagg." When they finished breakfast at the morning of the 23rd, Martha Morse put her elbows firmly on the table, rested her chin in her two hands, and looked across at Ronnie. Her face was serene, and her keen gray eyes were almost smiling. Almost, Ronnie thought, as if she knew a secret. "Ronnie," she began, "we may as well face the facts. Byron Flagg's not coming before Christmas. Now, I've never spent Christmas in my life in any place that I haven't scrubbed till it's shone, and I'm not going to begin now. You and I are going to start right in. By night, the whole lighthouse is going to shine like the lamp itself." "Oh, Aunt Marthy," Ronnie protested, "it's as clean as a whistle. There's not a speck of dust anywhere." His aunt laughed at him. "I know it," she said, "but we'll just give it an extra loving polish anyhow, just because it's Christmas." "A loving polish," Ronnie grumbled. "Ronnie," Miss Morris said gently, For hundreds and hundreds of years, men have believed that on Christmas Eve, the Christ child goes visiting. He goes into all kinds of homes. None is too poor, too distant. That's why we must make our house as lovely as we can. We must be ready. But we can't trim it up one tiny bit. We haven't a single thing to make it look Christmassy. We can give it the beauty of perfect cleanliness, she said, and tomorrow we'll bake. Bake what? Ronnie demanded. I don't know yet, but I'll ransack the keeper's stores and see what I can find. I'll fashion some kind of pudding, you'll see. And no woman can call herself a cook who can't work a miracle with spices and molasses. But today, remember, we scrub. I want you to begin on the storage locker on the second landing. There's nothing heavy there, just light cases. You can move them easily and set them back when you finished. Her energy was contagious, and Ronnie melted a little. All right, Aunt Marthy, he said, more good-naturedly. If you say shine, we'll shine, but it won't hurry that mean old flag along. They hurried through the breakfast work and did the lamp with scrupulous care before Ronnie started on his storage locker. 15 minutes later, Miss Morse was startled by a shout from above. Aunt Marthy, come quick! See what I've found! What on earth is it? Don't tell me you found Byron Flagg himself packed in the locker, she laughed as she flew up the stairs. Ronnie was kneeling beside a seaman's chest. Look! It's got my name on it, he said excitedly. How can there be a box for me? And it says Christmas greetings on it, too. That's funny. He looked up at his aunt. At the sight of her face, full of concern, the answer came to him. The laughter died out of his face, and he put his head down on the chest and shook with dry sobs. But in a moment, he was on his feet, his face white with anger. He planned this whole thing, Aunt Marthy, didn't he? He knew all along he was going to leave us here. He didn't break a leg or something so he couldn't come. He cheated. Martha Morse was almost frightened at his sudden rage. She interrupted quietly. Hadn't you better open the box, Ronnie? Let's see what's in it. I don't want to open it. I don't care what's in it, he stormed. Well, I do, she said firmly. A box marked Christmas is always worth looking into. Of course, it has your name on it, but I don't care whose name's on it. Open it if you want to. I'm not the tiniest bit interested. I never want to see what's in it. He turned his back and stood against the rails. Martha Morse knelt beside the chest, slipped a bolt. When she lifted the lid, an exclamation of pleasure escaped from her. It was a strange collection of things that Byron Flagg had gathered together. She lifted them out and spread them around her on the floor. There was a cask of the West Indies red peppers, a rare treat to northern appetites. Another little cask held rich brown sugar. There were great bunches of big blue raisins wrapped in fine oiled silk, and in other silken packages Turkish paste and strange sweets from the East, dried fruits and nuts. There was a tamarind preserves and a preserved ginger in gray blue jars, and at the very bottom a lovely teakwood box. Miss Morse held the box in her lap, unopened, and looked up at Ronnie's grim back. He was staring out the tower window, silent now for want of breath. Wouldn't you like to open this box, Ronnie? She asked gently. It's not fair that I should have all the fun. Byron Flagg must have been collecting treats for us for months. Probably he traded with every passing ship that he could just get to put off a boat. That's just it. That's why I'm so mad at Aunt Marthy. Ronnie's anger flared up again. He's a bad old man, and I'd like to swim straight to New Brunswick where he's gone. I'd like to burst open the door and tell him how I despise him. I'm to open the box then, am I, Ronnie? Aunt Martha interrupted. I won't. Go ahead if you're so curious. He can't buy me, Ronnie said rudely. Miss Morse lifted the cover of the teakwood box. On the top, with her name pinned to it, a lovely cashmere shawl. Below were carved whalebone, ivory toys, such things as sailors made to while away the weary hours on the shipboard were no novelty to Martha Morse. But she had never seen more beautiful workmanship than these. There was a little whaleboat, complete in every last detail. Its bow, box, and stern locker, its rowlocks, and its 6 oars of varying lengths. The tiny tubs in their places, each with its coiled lines carved in minute perfection. There were the harpoons and lances, their sheathed tips resting in the cleats, the buckets, the water keg, all the work of days and days. She could see homesick men on quiet seas waiting for a breeze to fill their sails, big hands with cunning fingers fashioning in miniature the tools of their craft. How some boys would treasure these, she said. This harpoon now. But Ronnie was relentless. I could harpoon that man my own self. He's just a selfish old man, he stormed. Maybe he is selfish, she agreed. But I think he has parted with us. He's treasured all his life just to make amends with us. Ronnie was not listening, and she went on thinking out loud. This shawl, for instance. Like as not, he chose this cream with shades of violet himself. For some golden-haired girl with pansy eyes, no doubt. I wonder why he never gave it to her. And here's a letter with both our names on it. I don't want to read his old letter. I won't listen to it, Ronnie said. Suddenly, an idea came to him. He turned to his aunt in excitement. Aunt Marthy, I know what. We could fire the cannon. Then somebody will come and take us off the rock. Why didn't we think of that before? Martha Morris looked at the boy in amazement. Fire the cannon? She spoke as if she could possibly not have heard correctly. Why, Ronnie, that cannon is for emergencies. Well, isn't this an emergency? Ronnie wanted to know. Miss Morse's patience was at an end. No, it's not, she said firmly. An emergency. The kind that cannon is for means there's a ship out there on the ledges, breaking up. There are helpless sailors clinging like little black ants to spars, being washed off into eternity while you watch. No, Ronnie, this is no emergency. We are two able bodies being left to guard a light, and we'll do it, Christmas or not. And what's more, we'll do it without all this self-pity, these tantrums. Ronnie was startled out of his sense of grievance. But Aunt Marthy, he began. I've heard enough, Ronnie, his aunt interrupted. Nobody's going to spoil my Christmas. Not Byron Flagg, and not a sniveling small boy either. But I'm not sniveling, Ronnie was indignant. You might as well be. You've gone all to pieces because you're missing a Christmas party at school, and a measly stocking full of candy. That's not true, and you're just as disappointed as I am this minute. Of course I am, but with more reason, too, Martha Morse told him. You'll have 50 more Christmases in your life, probably, but I won't. And the chance to lift my voice to the Lord and the old Christmas hymns with my neighbors and my friends around me and the peace of a Christmas service is more precious than you can understand at your age. But Christmas, Ronnie, is something in your heart. It's a feeling that doesn't go with anger and hatred. And my heart's got to be clean and ready for Christmas. It's going to be as clean as this lighthouse, Ronnie. I can't even be angry with you, child. Then she added more gently, Go to your room now, Ronnie. I'll finish what has to be done, and I'll do it best alone. Under the circumstances, I'm not punishing you. I know you're not the spoiled urchin you'd like me to believe, but I know you'll feel better when you've cooled off and had time to think. What you need at the moment is some real lonesomeness. Run along now, child, and get it. All the rest of the day, Ronnie sulked while his aunt scrubbed and polished and dusted in a kind of holiday ecstasy. He ate his meals in silence, and she ignored him cheerfully.